without him, so I'll call the meeting to order and see if there's any agenda changes. I don't believe there is. Guest recognition. I don't believe anybody is joining us that wants to address the board for anything.
Nope.
No, I don't see anybody. Okay. So item 4 is approval of Board of Education minutes dated 5/27. Do I have a motion? Oh, geez. I'm sorry. Let's start over again. Items 4, 5, 6, and 7. Someone would like a motion to approve 5 items or 4 items?
I'll make that.
Beth, have a second?
I'll second.
Jim seconded. Any discussion or questions on any of the Committee on Special Ed, Finance, Personnel Resolutions, and the Board of Education minutes?
No, just that Jackie's been really busy.
Okay, if no one has any questions on any of those items, I entertain a motion to, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed 4-0 until Bob gets.
Julie, you're muted. Did you give an aye? I didn't see a thumbs up or hear an aye. Sorry. Just want to make sure.
Were you an aye? Were you an aye on that board? Okay.
Yeah, just give a thumbs up.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8, items for board discussion and or adoption. Well, we'll need an approval for this, but we'll let Ryan go through this and let us know if you haven't read it. So
It's just a very simple memorandum for the CSEA members with vacation days. Some folks were in a position where they weren't able to use planned vacation days for the spring break. So we're adjusting the contract for 1 year to allow them to carry over more days so they're not forced to take the days if it's not a good time to take the days. And they won't lose the days. Either way, we've extended the window from the end of August to the end of October to allow, they'll be converted to personal sick days that don't get used. So it's just trying to help the CSEA unit members out by not losing vacation days.
right, and I think we discussed this at the last meeting a little bit too. So does anybody have any questions? Now entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Jim, have a second?
I can't see Julie.
I
I'll
second.
second.
Beth?
Okay.
Julie's muted, but I can't hear her, but I can see her. It's my phone. I'm trying to kill it. Okay. I don't know who it is. It says restricted. So I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We lost. I think we lost Julie. Aye. Julie, are you there?
So she's back in.
Yep, he's back. Let's see.
I'm here. Aye.
Okay, we had aye. Okay, passed 4-0. Okay. Item B, discussion approval of the amendment to the flexible spending account (FSA). I don't know if Kristen wants to make any comments or Ryan any comments before we approve that.
Yeah.
So this is just updating the flexible spending plan to follow the IRS. They're changing it from $2,700 to $2,750 as a maximum. And then a carryover, it was $500, and the IRS has allowed them to carry it over to $550. So we wanted to be able to offer it the maximum to the employees.
Anybody have any questions? Now I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make it.
Julie, have a second?
I'll second.
Jim, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed 4-0. Item C is discussion approval, the high school courses with low enrollment. Every year, we ask the administrators to give us a list of courses where we have low, I think less than 10, I'm not sure it is, or I think it's less than 10. And they're respective if they feel that that's something we should continue with. And I believe they are recommending that we continue with these. But I'll open it up for discussion. Everybody, Ryan or either Ryan, want to comment?
I'll turn it over to Ryan Wagner. Rodney, my first time through, the way you communicated the process is as I understand it. But I know Ryan has a little bit more experience with it than I do. So go ahead, Mr. Wagner.
Yep. So we looked at any courses that were under 10 for enrollment. 2 of them fall in French, and we're looking at our French 2 with 8 students and our French 4 with 5 students. And those are, so the French 2 courses required for the sequence for the Regents Diploma with Advanced Designation. And the French 4 is our capstone course for French. Typically that's got a few more kids in it than 5. One of the things with French as well is, I talked about this a little bit last year, but I think Mrs. Dykonsky being new is kind of growing the program. So in 7th grade, there's actually 32 students currently that are going to take French. So we'll actually have 2 sections in 7th grade. It is a class with a higher number. I think there's almost 100 in that class, but that's still a pretty good number for French. So I'm optimistic that, her work and her alignment with the kids and relationships will continue to grow that program. The other courses we had business finance, which currently only has 4 students enrolled in business law with 9 students. That'll probably shake out as the schedule, students come in for schedule changes earlier in the year. This is part of the business sequence, which, and they're both singletons. So they're both required to run because of the schedule conflicts that are created. So for students to get those specific courses in the business sequence or pathway, we have to offer both of them. And that's, sorry, that's all the courses that have less than 10.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions at all? I think we ought to provide all the opportunities that we possibly can. We don't have to add additional instructors or anything to do that. So, which is a good thing. So I think it's a no-brainer, but anybody else have any comments? Bob has joined us, just if you don't see him, his smiling face is on the screen. Nobody has any other comments. I'll entertain a motion to approve those courses.
I'll make it.
Beth, have a second?
I'll second.
Julie, any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed 5-0. Okay, now we're into some discussion items. Schedule of required plans. We'll let Ryan take this one.
Yeah, so Beth, you're not able to see us, are you? So if I share my screen, it's not going to help much. Julie, I think you have a copy. Bob and Rodney, you have a copy because you're here. I'm going to go and take over the screen for just a second, and I'm going to pop up a version. I will make sure that I send it to you after the meeting, Julie. Excuse me, Beth, so you can see it. You should be seeing at this point a document that has some green and turquoise and yellow showing. Is everybody seeing that okay? Is that, could you speak up, please?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ryan.
Yes.
My drag and drop of my extending my screen has not been working very well, Mr. Ellis, just so you know. It's very
Yeah,
tricky.
the copy I had doesn't have green on it.
Was it? Did Maya run it in black and white?
Oh no, I got blue and yellow and orange.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to bail on the sharing screens and I'm just going to talk over it. Sorry. So the screen the document that you have is a schedule of plans.
Yep.
So it starts with what was up above, and then you can skip over all of that, and you should just have on the paper copy revised plans 2020. 2021, 2022 is what it should say. One of the conversations we've been having as an administrative team that I just wanted to give you a heads up on, I don't think we need to take too deep of a dive right now, is staying on top of the scheduled and required plans is really hard. The state doesn't make it easy when they're are some plans that can be 2 or 3 year plans. If some are approved by BOCES and others are not. Some can be done in partnership with BOCES and others can't. Some are due at the end of the year. Some required trainings need to take place at the beginning of the year. The shared decision-making plan itself, by regulation, is due the 1st of February every year. It's just the state does not make it easy to stay on top of these things. So one of the things that we've been having conversations about is to take a little bit more control over the plans and just do them annually so they stay on the radar. And one of the real benefits is when you're working on these in an annual way, you're able to shape some of the things so that they come together. For instance, goals for the buildings can be reinforced through the shared decision-making team and the professional learning team, things of that sort. The district plan, the technology plan is required every 2 years, but part of the technology plan is certainly going to be the technology disaster plan, which has to be done every year, and that would definitely qualify as an emergency that should be in, for example, the emergency response plan, which has to be done every year. So we've been having conversations as a leadership team, and in general, what we want to do with our required plans is make them due annually. We want this shared decision-making team to, where it makes sense, be kind of a final reviewer of the plans before they get recommended to district office. So in some cases, it'll be the shared decision-making team. In some cases, it'll just be the leadership team. And in some cases, it'll be both the shared decision-making team and the leadership team. We'll be finalizing the plans and reviewing the plans in May. Going forward after this year, we're not going to be able to do it smoothly this year. There's just been too much on the radar. But going forward after this year, the plan would be to share them with you as part of the information packet for the first board meeting in June, to give you the time between the first meeting and the second meeting to review and ask questions, and then ask for approval of those plans for the second meeting in June so that they're in place for the reorganizational meeting. So if you skip down for just a second, I want to talk briefly about the shared decision-making plan, which is right in here. We took action on the shared decision-making plan in April of this year. So what Jackie and Christina are going to do is work the shared decision-making process, and we're going to have an updated plan for August of this year. By regulation, the shared decision-making plan is due on February 1st. So we're going to be moving ahead of that deadline, and we're going to get it done by the end of August this year so that we will get it posted throughout the entire year rather than wait until February 1st to post it. And then going forward, that team, instead of waiting every 2 years, we're going to review the plan every year. And then we'll try to get them reviewed in this time period here in May and June, where they'll be reviewed by the different various teams and leadership team. And the board will have an opportunity to see it in the beginning of June and ask for approval at the second meeting in June every year so that we can post it and it'll be in place so that we can build our summer work around the ideas of what's been talked about at the shared decision-making level. So that's just an example of what will happen. Another example that I referred to briefly is this disaster recovery plan, which is due annually, even though the technology plan itself is only due every other year. So we're going to have these due annually. The disaster recovery plan will also be a part of the district's emergency response plan that we're working on as well. So I just wanted to give you a quick high-level overview of what we're trying to do, the calendar that we're trying to create, instead of just wait and try to meet all these days that dates and responsibilities that are all over the place. We thought we would just take hold of it and create a system that allows us to do this work on a regular basis. And if you go back to that screen that I've shared in the past with the arrows being all over the place and the arrows coming together, by not just doing exactly what we're told, but by taking it and making it our own, we should have the ability to create a calendar and a system for working that makes a little bit more sense for us. So that was a lot. I talked long soliloquy there. I apologize. What questions can I answer for you?
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I think the more control we can make on our own level here it's better for everyone, I believe.
Great. So full transparency, what it'll mean for the board is you'll be getting several plans in that May, June time period. So it makes it a little bit harder for you, the board, because they'll all be coming in at once rather than being spread out. And I just wanted to make sure that I was forthcoming with that information. It makes it easier for the rest of us to have the calendar, but it does put a little bit more work on the board for those meetings.
It's okay with me.
Yep, we can do it.
Yep, sounds good.
Great, thank you. And I want to thank the leadership team. It's been all over the place, like to find the regulations on each of the plans and what's responsible and what gets posted and what just needs to be sent to the state. It's very confusing. There's no one place, no one district site that you can go to that talks about all of the schools' required plans. It's all over the place in the NYSED resources. So thank you very much.
I think you got your screen still up, Brian?
Why don't I stop that? Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to item E, the reorganization meeting date. I know last meeting I'd mentioned to you guys, think about a date and a time. By law, it has to be the first Tuesday in July, or if by resolution, we can make it July 1st through July 15th. Having COVID still restrictions out there for doing anything. I'm not what's everyone's thoughts. Do you want to just do a 4 o'clock like we're currently doing? It'd be a fairly short meeting. It's probably 30 minutes, probably at the most. Or somebody thinking of a different time, or anybody going out of town.
Would that date be the 7th then, Rodney?
Could be if we do the 7th, we don't have to do anything. We just have it the 7th. That's a Tuesday. You could do it at 4 o'clock, or any date after that or before that, we have to do a resolution, as long as it falls before the 14th or 15th.
Well, usually we've done it in the morning.
Well, we've always done some kind of
Activity.
retreat type activity, but we're absolutely probably not going to be able to do that this year. So,
Okay.
yeah. And the other thing I would like to request everyone that we do this in person. So that means this library, we got 7 or 8 tables. There'll be 5 of us, Maya and Ryan, and possibly one more, but there's enough so everyone could be at a separate table and be socially distanced, only because of all the, you got different oaths everyone's got to take and so on. So I'd like to request that we do that in person, whatever date we pick. So,
Rodney, do you mind if I mention also with that, like we had talked about the idea of returning to the library for meetings going forward after that. We might still stream to the extent possible and to the extent the governor's executive orders allow. But we'd be back in the same room as the board for our meetings starting in July, and we might still be streaming to a live audience.
I was just trying to get him to agree to the organization meeting and pass that in.
Well, I don't want to be accused of withholding information like a whole big split or anything.
Yeah.
I'm good.
So
with
everyone think about the reorg meeting.
I'm okay with it.
the 7th works for me, and at that time,
4 o'clock.
At 4. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know Maya's going to be out of town on the Friday and the Monday, so we didn't want to do it that way. Julie, are you okay for the 7th at 4 o'clock?
Sure, I'm good.
Bob?
Me too.
Yeah, you're retired. You don't care.
I got more work than I had before.
Okay. So we don't need to do any resolution, whatever. We'll set up the reorg for July 7th, 4 p.m. in the library in person. I don't know. I don't believe we'll have another meeting in July unless something comes up. We normally don't have a second meeting in July after that. We have 2 in August, but I don't think it's on the calendar for a July meeting, but maybe. If we have to have one, we'll have one later in July, but Como will be loosening things up. I think the schools will be in 4 anyways, which will be sometime in July for its opening up. So, okay, if there's nothing else there, I know someone wants to talk about contingency budget, even though we're not going to need one, but I'll pass that over to Ryan.
I guess the first thing that I'll share about the contingency budget is, as of today, we have received 1,075 valid ballots.
Wow.
So with the extension and with drop off tomorrow, I'm sure we'll be receiving more. I think a couple of different ways to look at it. I don't know what to think of the response. I think it does just say something about people's willingness to participate in the democracy when it's done this way. So, but 1,075 votes. That's whew. So if the vote, if should the votes not go our way, just a reminder that we talked about at the last meeting that some of the community service events that we would do, the about $18,900 for the pool and for the weight room, would go out. And because we're supporting the capital outlay project through the capital reserve as part of the budget, then if the budget were to go down, there would be no capital outlay project for next year either. And then in addition to that, when all of that is settled out, we would still need to find an additional approximately $180,000, $178,051 to be exact, according to Kristen, that we would need to find through cuts. As an administrative team and as a Board of Education, we've already looked at some of what would be on the radar. Don't plan to revisit all of that at this particular time, but there are some things in there that were definitely expense cuts that we would have to visit and prioritize should we need to go that way. So the pre-work is done. Should we need to dive into that more specifically, we'll work on that together as the leadership team and as a Board of Education.
Yeah, so hopefully nothing's going to happen, but just want the board to be aware that there might be some difficult decisions if, in fact, contingency budget does happen. So in my report, I was going to mention that my NISBA 7-hour Zoom meeting Saturday, we had sent through Dan Fuller to the governor a request that the governor extend the date because the fear if a bunch of school districts do fail, if they want to spend the $5,000 in mailing to go back out, you have an opportunity for a second vote. So the request is in for in the case of budgets going down, but whether or not he's going to approve that or not. But there's been a lot of discussion about the mail-in ballots and so on, and the fear something might happen that he would allow it. Now, personally knowing the governor and how he has been in the previous years, he's probably going to say that's good that they're going on contingency, so they're spending less money, and because he thinks we get too much now anyway. So not sure how hopeful we are of that, but we did we did talk to Dan. Jay Warren, some of the attorney had talked with Dan, was passing it up through to the governor. So.
Do you let us know the results tomorrow or of the vote?
No, we're not going to be able to do that because of the most recent executive order I was going to talk about in COVID-19. The most recent executive order extended the voting up to the 16th of June. So we're not supposed to start counting until 5 o'clock on the 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So there was some hope that we could start counting the votes that we already have, but that's not going to be the case, at least unless something changes.
Yeah, that was a request that we had of the governor too. Don't mess with everybody else, but you can see what he did. He messed with everybody and said it's the 16th now. So we can't accept any hand ballots after the 9th.
Right.
No one can walk in and give us a ballot. We have to tell them, take it back home and put it in the mail, and we can accept it up to the 16th. But we can't accept any hand ballots after the 9th. We have to take our box down if anybody brings it in tomorrow. So,
So we do plan to have the ballot box out front. Andy Engler and Rick Trevino are going to man the ballot box for 4-hour shifts from 9 to 5 tomorrow. It's going to be right outside the auditorium doors. But they can only drive it up tomorrow. After that, they would have to go home and put it in the mail. Kristen, did I miss anything in talking about I'm sorry, Beth, the contingent budget? I'm sorry, Beth.
You're okay. Kristen, go ahead.
No, nothing new.
okay. Beth, I think
my question was just, do you feel like you have enough people to help you when you do open up the ballots?
Yes, we have 2 election
Right,
Up
I
to
saw
this.
those. This-
And then we have
Yeah.
4 additional ones appointed from the district, so we should be in pretty good shape. And
Okay.
we did learn we're going to be able to keep the scans until the 16th, so the scanners. So we won't have to deal with counting by hand. So I think we'll be okay as far as that goes.
Okay,
And they're pre-checking as they're coming in, making sure that they're registered, that they're valid to be open. So we're not going to have to decide whether or not it's valid at the time. Maya's been going through them as they come in. So, okay. Moving on to item G is Board of Ed retreat. Whether or not, what's the interest? What's the thoughts? Ryan's got some questions to throw out there to you to see your feelings. So.
Yeah, so Rodney mentioned about the reorganization meeting as being one possibility, but not knowing exactly what's going to be available and what's not going to be available in that amount of time. We thought we would not plan to do something around the reorganization meeting, but then I just wanted to try to gauge a feel from the board about what type retreat type events have you been involved in the past? What did you think really worked well as a board? What are some of the things we would want to work on? And what would be some of the ideal outcomes of a one-day retreat? Or it sounds like you did half days in the past. I'm not sure the overall history of what the Board of Education retreat has been. But why don't we start with what has worked well for you in the past, and whether it's from the board retreats or other activities that you've been involved with. And I apologize for everyone on the screen, but I'm mostly looking to hear from the Board of Education for this.
Is there a way, you just said a lot there. I would need time to think about that. Is there any way to reflect on those answers, or do you want off the top of our head?
Why don't we do, that's a good point, Julie. Why don't we do both? Can we have a discussion, and then I will send out the responses with the questions, and then we can continue to inform it.
Okay.
So the first question.
One of the things I mentioned to Ryan that, other than our reorgs where we just had like a team building thing, we had someone come up from NISBA once. We had Jim Thompson in here once for some different types of team building or organizational building. So those are the types of things that we're thinking about. If that's something you're looking at, I know a couple of you want to read a book. Julie, you're frozen.
No, am I
She is
there?
frozen. I was going to say,
Yeah.
guys, hold on. But anyways, the topics like that. So I'll let the rest of you guys, speak up and what you thought worked well or what you'd like to see or whatever.
well, I remember when Jim Thompson was there before, we didn't, the whole idea of the covenant, and there's a couple things that we need to pick back up on. That would be one of them. So I think that was really good time spent together. And maybe, as I like Julie's idea, like reflecting on it, there might be a few things that we know that we just have put on the back burner that would just be good to be topics of discussion.
I agree with Beth too. If you think about especially the last 2 sessions that we've had were, I thought, really worthwhile, and we were all able to engage in discussions that we don't always normally have the opportunity to do. And the two Beth mentioned Covenant. The other one that was that we participating in was a goal setting type of, right, and which I think was very worthwhile and was something that we wanted to continue doing. So again, I'm not sure I'd want to reflect like moving forward what a topic area might be, but those two, even revisiting those two, I think that would be good, right? Because it's something, those are things we want to continue to revisit.
Jim, can I follow up with that? When you talk about goal setting, is that goals for the Board of Education or goals that the Board of Education sets for the whole district?
It's goals for the Board of Education, but the discussion did include that, and that we did differentiate because we have our global overarching board goals that were established and still are, but then we didn't always have our individual, well, not necessarily individual, but just goals as a board rather than goals for the district. But for me, I think both are very important. So, you know, whether it's the individual goals and our overarching board goals.
Great. So the idea of I've heard the expression of the working on the covenant used in the past, and I'm familiar with terms like norms and working agreements and things of that sort. The covenant is something a little bit different for me. Could you help get me in the ballpark? Well, it sounds like it's related, but maybe not the exact same. Could you mind giving me a little bit of history on that?
Yeah, I can just jump in. I just know that we were thinking along the lines of just kind of the philosophy, kind of our belief system and our values and those types of things. So it's if you look at all those items together, you would have those kind of in conjunction with our goals, and those being connected to the strategic goals of our district as well. You know, and kind of having all that alignment. And I know I'm kind of speaking in generalisms here, but you know, the covenant really was more about what we stand for. You know, what do we believe in? What would we like to see, you know, our kids and our students and staff accomplish?
And then also about the relationship to one another as a board, that we all have that same, you know, common focus, or I'm at a loss for words. You know, whether it, you know, trust and being sensitive to others, and like those protocols you talked about, or norms in a group meeting, so that we were all of the same mindset when it came to working together and sharing ideas, and, you know, just setting the stage, setting the climate for ourselves as a board.
Right.
Yeah,
that's good, Beth.
Okay. Plus, we have a new superintendent that we need to bring into the fold and make sure that you know, we're all working together too. So.
Right.
Right.
You got a greenhorn superintendent. You need to shape them a little bit.
Well, you haven't been to one of our retreats yet.
So I mean, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but it sounds like in the past that you were working on some things that you thought were worthy, and you're interested in continuing those things, not looking for something different to work on or new.
No, because we didn't really finish and
yeah.
update our goals. Yeah, so there was still work to be done on the goals that we set.
Right.
I think it was a couple of years, and they started it actually even before I joined. Some they made some changes, and then some we just needed to continue. But it's still a relatively new process.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is a valid point there. But we didn't always have opportunities for a retreat. But we did have opportunities for activities and things like that, which we would tie into the reorganizational meeting. So that was team building, and that was done annually and was very positive, is very positive. But this was separate, really, for, you know, enabling us to work on our skills as board members and to do some of those things together and work on goals. So yeah, so it is pretty new. The ones we're talking about were sessions that we've done over the past few years, which we didn't always do. So continuing with those, I think, is good, but we're open to moving forward with new too. So
Great. In terms of a format that you've enjoyed in the past or you think would be a good fit, what ideas might you have? Typically, you know, there's been half-day retreats, or maybe 2 half-day retreats that comprise a full day, but keep it to 3 hours or so that people don't get worn out, or just dive in and work, you know, sun up to sundown. I've never been on a Board of Education retreat that's been an overnight anywhere, but I know that some districts do that. What formats have worked for you in the past, or do you think are the best fit at this time?
I know in the past, the last 3 or 4 that we had were in the evening. We brought in something to eat, It may have been from 4 to 8 or something. It was 4 hours. We brought in a couple times. We brought in different speakers. We brought in a NISBA speaker for one of the times. We brought in Jim Thompson another. But I believe they were during the week and in the evening. Not to say, because I think Saturdays were very difficult for everyone. Everyone was working then. It had different things going on. So Saturdays were a little tough, and obviously Sundays were too. But I don't know what I'm receptive to any of it. So.
Well, one thing I thought of is having 2 separate meetings would be good because we could create some issue or some problems we can solve and discuss it at the next meeting so that we can. My goal would be to get together, as Beth had said, just to work with one another, find out who wants what and who will do what, just kind of get that grouping together and then go from there to planning ahead. So we can get the basics done in the first meeting, I would think. And then going forward, I think we could go ahead and even if we had a third one, I'm not, to me, seeing each other, talking to each other, seeing how we feel about things, it's so much easier to do a little bit at a time. And you can carry it over to the next meeting, expand it on there. And of course, if we run into a need for another one, just to go forward with that and see what we plan to do. Because we know we've done in the past. We could pick out what worked and what didn't work going forward. And this is all, because we've had different members come on board, we can all reflect on what happened in the past, how we received it, how we want to plan it for the next one. Something like that would be fine with me. And of course, what Julie wanted with the covenant, that could be thrown in there as well with just to get the feelings of the board, because we really don't talk a lot other than the meetings. And it would be good to see who's doing what, Jim
non-business stuff.
Yeah. Well, Jim brings his experience with him. I bring my stuff up, and Rodney's got ideas, and so Julie's got her stuff going, and with Beth coming on board, in this past couple of years, we can put it all together and then kind of go forward, because and of course we've got to have Ryan in on this too, so that he can see where we're going, or if he has some stuff that we could work, into ours or whatever. Communication is the key to everything. That is my goal. Is if we don't communicate, nothing gets done well.
Yeah,
that's my point.
Ryan, as you think of your own goals that might lead to things that would come up with a topic or something that we collectively would be supporting you on too. So as you are thinking of your goals, that might be something. What was the NISBA? Because I was not part of that one. What was the topic that when the NISBA came a couple of years ago?
Who's there? Darcy came up. Yeah.
Yep. And we were discussing board evaluation, like how to evaluate ourselves as board members.
Self-evaluation.
Yep. So we could kind of work on becoming an efficient, good board, which that probably doesn't come off right, because I think we're pretty good, but I mean, we can always learn and grow and try
and
to
that
do
led
that.
to the goals. Did that training or that time together lead to the goal setting?
Well, it kind of, the whole focus was just on how to evaluate ourselves as a board, like individually and then together. So at least that's how I remembered it. Does anybody else?
Yeah, I think our goals, the goal idea I can't remember if it directly stemmed from that, but it came after that. So I think it did. I think the more we worked through that self-eval process, we identified that we can work on goals, our own goals.
Yeah.
And Jim Thompson, he was working with us on the covenant. He really liked that. He was the one that was kind of teasing and gleaning that out of all of us. So that was his focus.
Yeah.
So I'll just do a very quick tell back of what I'm hearing so far, and we'll go from there. I'm kind of hearing a couple of different things. One is it seems like some sort of activity that brings the team together a little bit more, just connecting. A second part of that is maybe defining some beliefs and values and maybe ways of doing business. And then the third is moving forward, setting those goals for continuous improvement. So something that addresses those high-end topics might be worthwhile. And I think that fits pretty well into what I think I was hearing from you, Bob, which was some sort of connection between activities, like a series of activities that connect to one another. So it's not you do this, then you do this, and then you do something else, but it's progressive. Those are the ideas that I'm hearing. Can you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if I'm in the ballpark?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Good.
You know, we may look at, if we try and do something in the evening for 4 hours to 3 hours, but maybe in future, look at it, maybe do it on a quarterly basis. Every 3 months that we have one of these little mini retreats,
Right.
and whatever we did in one of them, if we need to move forward or we pick the next topic, but just it's continuously, it's quarterly, we do it. But I think the other thing that we need to do, I know Ryan's got, you captured a lot of that, but those that want to go back and think a little bit and jot things down and write them down and bring them back to us, to give you opportunity to reflect on some of the things we want to do, bring them back too. So.
Yep, and I'll type this up and go from there. Sounds like we're thinking about like some evening or at least smaller chunks of time that are a series.
I think that's what we did. That's what we did the last time. I don't know if everyone still feels the same. Try not to use the whole Saturday up, but if that's what you want to do, I'm fine with that too. But I know in the last time we all felt that the weekends were pretty tough, and we tried doing it during the week. We were better off during the week, but that's open. So.
Yeah, I thought those worked well, like 3 to 3 hours, and right, and an evening. And if we're going to do a series, then that sounds fun. Then we don't have to do marathons, right? We'll do
True.
And we always had dinner too. It was simple, but we always.
I knew I liked
Sorry.
Javon. I really knew I liked Javon.
Get that dinner.
Sounds good. Let me ask one more question. And just first thing that comes to mind, and I know you're going to need more time to think about this, but this year's board retreat, whether it's 1 meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings, will have been a success if what? What's the next thing that comes to mind? And I'm going to round table it, everyone. It will have been a success if what? And Beth, you're top left. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
First on the radar.
That people left feeling that they were comfortable and could share their thinking. That people were comfortable and open and contributing.
Okay.
Jim, you're up. You're in the upper right.
That we have a renewed sense of connection, and then also kind of a clearer sense of direction on things we can improve on.
1 second. Julie, you're next down, like the next line of reading.
I would like to see us kind of continue to learn more about each other's strengths so that we can work together, leaning on each other's strengths and the departments where they bring those qualities and gifts and talents.
So strengths-based approach, got it. Bob, it will have been a success if?
Well, I'm hearing just about everything I want to hear. The communication part is so important. If we just, to me, that's, you can't do a job without talking with each other. And if we understand that, why or who does what, that's where we can iron out. It's not a pointing finger. It's like okay, I can depend on Jim because I know he has his background in that, and I would feel free to ask him a question. And the same thing with Rodney. I mean, he's been around for a long, long time, and he's
Too
sorry,
long.
but I mean,
too long.
but just to have the ability to ask a question and not feel, not pressured, but I mean, just uncomfortable is more what I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said, if you don't ask the question, you don't know the answer. So, if you don't know, ask. That's it.
Rodney?
Ditto. No, I mean, ditto everybody, but I'll just end it and say I think we need to have open, honest, full participation from everyone. They not be afraid to speak and worry that it would leave the room.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for engaging in that discussion. I'll type up what I have. I'll send it back out for you to add some final thoughts. After I get the final thoughts, I will come up with a proposal, maybe something for the year about where, when, how, and we'll go from there. Anything I come up with will be open for discussion and we'll be able to shape. One of the expressions that I like in the past that I would just put out there maybe as something to start us out with is, in the past, like I find if you're talking about a series approach, then the best thing to do is to have that understanding that we're not going to try to boil the ocean, that we're going to take it one step at a time and keep it moving forward. But to start and enter a path and begin on that path and then keep moving forward.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
You get to talk again, Ryan. We're going to get the COVID-19 update. What we haven't told you already.
Okay, COVID-19. I've got some notes written down here. We touched upon briefly the Board of Education and the budget vote being extended, and the number of votes that we have in already. We have the drop-off ballot tomorrow. I have a school messenger prepared to send out to folks to remind them that it's been extended or inform them that it's been extended. But anything after tomorrow has to be sent via U.S. mail. We cannot accept them in person. We really are going to have to tell people you have to go home and mail it, which seems silly, but we're following the executive orders as best we can. It's been a changing bit of guidance. Maya's incredible. She's done a great job with it. She's had lots of great help. Everybody in the business office has been helping. Carrie has been helping. It's really been a terrific team effort, but she has been outstanding, as has the Livingston County Board of Elections. The building material information has been communicated by building principals. Some of those pickups have started. We've been able to do, for instance, some of the medicines that we were not able to get distributed earlier. Thinking we might be able to come back, have been distributed. The nurses have been in working. We're doing self-evaluation forms here, and some additional dates are available at the end of this week for families to come in and continue picking up. A lot of the stuff has been bagged. Parents come in, give a name, and the bag is walked out to the car, and they move on. So it's gone pretty smoothly from what I've seen so far. I will, if you don't mind, ask the Ryan and Rob are here. Jen, just so you know, Jen did check in with me. She had an opportunity to do a webinar with John Hattie, so I told her to go ahead and do it. But Ryan and Rob, anything you want to add to the material distribution end of the year schedules and plans?
Just to add that there's been a ton of collaboration to get that all taken care of, with everybody lending a hand, with teachers pulling the materials together and packaging those things up as neatly as possible. But we're looking forward to running the distribution on Friday, and we have our fingers crossed because the weather right now is looking great with no rain, which will be very helpful.
Just echo what Rob said, a ton of collaboration in high school, especially kids stuff. It's kind of like everywhere. PE locker, teacher's classroom. So a lot of hands on deck to try to organize that all into one place and get it ready to bring out. So
like my son's bedroom.
To help.
Great. And then the last thing under the COVID-19 update that I want to talk about and have Mr. Wagner come in and tag team with me is graduation. As you know, this has been on our minds. We have not communicated a lot of plans just because we knew that the plans were going to continue to change. And we have submitted our ideal plan, but we have not officially heard word on that yet. We ended last week thinking that we were going to come to you and update you that we'd have two plans definitely ready to go. We have a stadium graduation ready to go, and we have a parking lot graduation ready to go. And the discussion tonight was going to be, there have been some rumors floating around about maybe the 29th of June, things opening up even more. So our question tonight was originally going to be about, we told families to work on the 27th and 28th, but if we have a chance to open things up and maybe do our in-person graduation instead of the car graduation that nobody really wants to do, would we be better off delaying until maybe Wednesday night and do something Wednesday night, give us the best chance? We've waited as long as possible, and then we're going to move forward. Well, the executive order in communications yesterday are going to allow for graduations no more than 150 people. So you can this playing field continues to change. So with that, unless Mr. Wagner has had a change of heart since our meeting this afternoon, we're thinking we want to move forward with the weekend of the 27th, with the 28th as the rain date. Our plan right now to meet the executive orders would be to have two separate graduation ceremonies for roughly half the class. Unfortunately, we would have to limit the number of participants from the families at that point. It would be a graduate and two, would keep us at the 150 for the stadium graduation.
Yeah. It's got to be 150 total participants on the field.
Correct. Yep.
That includes us.
Correct.
You, Ryan, any administrators, myself. So
yeah,
if they got two, what would that 50?
We'd be right at the 150, and we would eliminate other administrators, no offense, from being on the field. We would have to make some adjustments to the ceremony, but being able to get it done in two ceremonies is doable.
Yeah. I think I should be there.
Would we as a board?
I'm signing the diplomas right now, so someone better be there.
Do you think Rodney should just represent the board?
We're gonna keep working on.
Jim's got to be there, or unless
I'll be there. Yeah. I'll be there as a parent.
Yeah, so that's a one ticket down. Where he's in the blue, he has to be. So we're gonna work. With the guidance that's coming out today, we have not had a chance to put together the whole plan, but our target will be to have two separate ceremonies, keeping us at the 150, and we'll have to monitor closely what we're able to do. And I will not be surprised if additional guidance comes out that allows for more. If we get to a point where we can double that number, then we would consider combining and having one ceremony. So if we can have up to 300 in one space, that would allow every graduate to be on the field and have two visitors in the stadium. So we're gonna put together the plans. We're gonna go forward with the communicated plan now as being two ceremonies. We're going to look specifically at the numbers and see exactly what changes we'll have to make to the ceremony. Right out of the gate, our first thought was thinking about Val and Sal, that they would, valedictorian, salutatorian, they would each give their speech twice. So instead of having one do one and one do the other, they would just both give their speech twice to both sets of graduates. That's what I'm thinking about right now. Ryan, what did I miss?
No, I think you covered pretty much everything. I think I'm pretty happy right now because I think at least it gives us clear guidance to plan an in-person ceremony. So we haven't had that yet. It gives us some reassurance there that we can plan these ceremonies. And I think we've thought about every graduation ceremony possible every which way. So we're just going to continue to be flexible and react. But it's just nice right now to be able to actually start the planning of the ceremonies, knowing that we can do it. So we're in a good position there.
So out of the gate, if we were to go through with the two ceremonies, we're thinking we'd start one at 9:30 on the Saturday morning. It would go about an hour. We'd have an hour in between ceremonies to clean the bleachers and clean the chairs and make sure everything is set and ready to go for the next ceremony at 11:30. So right now, that'll be our working plan, 9:30 and 11:30, 2 ceremonies, with the idea that if we can get to up to 300 in one space, or if our plan as written gets approved, then we will go back to having the graduation at the stadium at 10 o'clock.
And we're still having it live streamed.
I know Dave Lefevre is still working, but he's the one that texted me yesterday with that and said, you know, I know splitting it's not going to be good, but that may be what we have to do. But he said he'll continue keeping his ears open and asking.
Yeah, my thoughts were I thought we were going to be doing the parking lot ceremony. So I think splitting the graduation is going to be, it's just, to me, it's like 100 times better. So it was good news. It was good, you know, I'm hoping that things change and we can do one ceremony, but you know, based on what I've heard from parents and students, I think people will be pretty happy given the situation if that's the way we have to go. And I'm also, can I ask to be excused from the meetings? My daughter has a virtual dance recital right now in my living room, which I'm going to walk over to. I gave Dr. Getty a heads up earlier. He gave me the okay.
Yeah, fun.
Thanks, Ryan.
She's in her dance. She's all in her get up. So looking good.
Just turn the camera. Does she want a bigger audience?
You want me to bring it over?
I'm just kidding.
I'll bring you guys over.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Bye.
Okay, moving on to reports. President's report. I already mentioned that we had our NISBA virtual meeting there for 7 hours or whatever it was. And I told you that, you know, they went to Dan Fuller and they're talking to him about if the contingency, could there be a second vote somehow that we extend the date of that. We don't know where that falls. We also thought that the governor's order was going to be only for districts that were having trouble, and it turned out that it wasn't. So who knows? The last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Julie is they had a roundtable. We had our normal roundtable. Julie was our representative from Area 2, and they spoke nothing of high regards of every single. They only had one person from each area. Normally there's two, but they said it was very interactive, and they were very impressed with all of our representatives that were there, and they asked the tough questions, and you know, and the interim commissioner, she was very good at responding to them. So with that, I'll turn it over to legislative there, Julie.
Thank you, Julie, for doing that.
Oh, Beth, you would have loved it. I thought of you the whole time that I was in it. I did type up some notes, so I'll have Ryan maybe send those out tomorrow. You know, ultimately, I'll just kind of give you the format. So first hour, every area talked really briefly about the concerns for their district. Ryan was amazing. He put together a survey of questions to superintendents, administrators, asking them about some of their concerns and what their thoughts were around reopening. So I could gather that. Ryan actually gathered it and sent it to me, and I kind of was able to do some pre-homework and bring those concerns forward. And then in the second hour, so it was great because you could hear each area, all 11 areas concerns, and, you know, transportation and budget passing, and all districts seem to be having the same thing where all of a sudden they're getting flooded with thousands of votes that normally they would not have received. You know, if they had the voters come to the polls and they're all concerned, like, what does this mean? Is it good? Is it bad? So then Commissioner Tahoe came in, and she went from area 1 to 2 to 3 and all the way through, and we each got to and state some of the concerns, and learning from the first 11 that went, that kind of all had similar topics. The second time around, I kind of approached it from the mental health standards of worrying about kids and where they're turning to right now as they're kind of lost and they're not in school in their seats, and how we've you know, all students at this point especially high schoolers are just frustrated. They don't have their sports. They don't have, the things that they normally do. And, trying to go about getting them back to school, but safely. And, you're listening to all the recommendations with masks and gloves and sanitization and temperature checks. And I mean, it really is an amazing, it's going to be an amazing journey. But all in all, Commissioner Tahoe agreed with what people were concerned about. She was bringing those to the governor. I'm sure Rodney probably got more information than I did because my meeting was only 2.5 hours. Yours was 7. So I probably should throw it back.
We had a lot of other to worry about.
I want to thank Ryan for those great notes. I mean, I felt so prepared, and I also will get those notes to you guys, and would be happy to have conversations if anybody has other questions. So we're hoping to hear from the governor whether he's going to do like a one size fits all for New York, or if he's going to break it into regions like 1, 2, 3, and 4. But a lot of people voice their concerns about the one size fits all mindset because downstate is so vastly different from upstate and like the North Country, and their concerns with they don't even have technology and one-to-one technology, let alone they can't even get internet access. So the blended learning model is going to be very challenging for them. So all that being said, if anybody has questions, I love talking about this stuff. Be happy to, fill you in. But if you don't mind, Ryan, maybe you could just send those to the board. They're pretty succinct. They're basic.
Yep, I'll send the abridged notes out. Julie reminded me that I was supposed to send those out. She and I talked late Friday afternoon, and I was supposed to include them in the report and update an email that I sent on Saturday, and it slipped my mind. So I apologize for that. I'll get those sent out.
That's tomorrow. I'm thankful. I appreciate all your help in preparing me, so I didn't go in there and just kind of look like I don't know what. So thank you for all that effort.
Well, thank you for wanting to get that information from our admin team as well as the region, and then some other superintendents that I know who took time to fill it out. So I think they like to have the opportunity to have a voice. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if you have anything else, Julie. I know that Pat is trying to put something together in Batavia for new board members election. I know that doesn't affect us, but I know he's going to be struggling with the social, and he's got a number of people and so on. But I know that they are offering it. So if anybody knows of new board members, maybe out someplace else that haven't heard, there might still be an opportunity to get into that class. So.
Yep, you're correct.
I can remember when it is. Do you remember when it is, Julie?
I'd have to pull it up, and I have it in an email.
Yeah. Well, if anybody knows somebody or wants to know, check with Julie.
Thanks. Pat is doing, we're having an end of the year kind of reorg meeting coming up on Zoom, and then Upstate Institute's doing the same thing. So I'll pass those notes on after I attend those meetings. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the administrator's report. You've got the Board of Ed update report that you had an opportunity to read over the weekend. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I just want to say thank you to all the administrators because, it's so I just know that has got to be daunting having the kids come in and collect their things and the emotional pieces that go with that, especially with the teachers too. So as if you didn't have enough to do, just kind of figuring all that out in terms of organizing all those materials and, making that happen seamlessly between, this week and next. So thank you for that. And I really am liking the format of the report, the board report. You're including a lot of great information. So thank you.
Great.
I agree. Anybody else have any questions? I'm sorry. I heard somebody. Julie?
No, I was just going to say, I wish Jackie, this summer again, because, it's always, the goalpost is always moving. And so I know that you're trying to, figure out the curriculum projects and the, staff development and all things like that and what that's going to look like. So just appreciate your slow and steady going right down the line.
Yeah, I'm glad it looks slow and steady. It feels a little chaotic and weird, but Brian has engaged us in a process with some calendarization that he and Christina and I are looking at. So that's been really helpful as far as kind of plotting out from June to September, all of the curricular focuses, the meetings, the PD, times where the district might be shut down for technology reasons. So it's been really helpful. And it's what I keep reflecting and going back to, as we're trying to kind of put this through. So I think as of this Thursday, Christina and I should have the majority of the dates plugged in. We're still getting curriculum proposals right now. So that's been pretty helpful. But again, just kind of trying to figure out where kids are going to be. And it has affected, some of our ESY recommendations, because some parents have been like, well, I don't know if I want to send them, if it's going to continue to be virtual. And then I had a few parents or a few teachers email me today or text me today saying parents were already emailing them on, Saturday when they saw the governor's order, which still doesn't make quite a bit of sense to me, but, and just trying to pay attention to what the CSC chairpersons are saying in the region, as far as what's going on in their district. So we should be getting some information from Chris Soriano pretty soon, from special ed at state ed, and kind of go from there. But it's just a constant, like you said, it's just constant communication back and forth as to what this is going to look like. But we certainly are planning on, putting together some type of model that won't feel as much of the same, so it is ESY, we want kids to be engaged. We want them to come. We did discover that through the title monies, we might be able to have Megan McTammany provide some music education over the summer. So I'm really excited about that. That's through the Title IV. So just anything to kind of, get the kids charged up and the teachers and assistants charged up, but we'll see. We'll see.
Is the plan to try and do ESY now with the governor's change in his executive order, where special ed can be teacher student faced? I know in BOCES that they got a big question because how are we going to social distance and everything else? But I think that order will be good until July 10th or something, he said.
Yeah, I saw July 6th, or 5th, which didn't really make sense. Right. Yeah, which didn't make sense because summer's program doesn't start till July 6th, but I know that he gives out these orders like a 30-day block, so maybe something will be coming soon. But it was always our intent to provide extended school year because we're obligated to do so. But we felt it was pretty much going to be virtual, including the related services. So maybe this will give us some opportunity to have some in-person. And that's especially true with some of our related services that are very difficult to do, in a distance type way. So everybody's kind of just staying on the ready, for whatever it is, we land at. So
I know with us in operations and maintenance, if in fact something like that happens, and I'm sure Tom's going to be heavily pushed in Kristen, if you have to have the social distancing and so on, you're going to have to get shields and all kinds of different things. Whether or not, we're questioning, is there time to get those things in place, and, plan, how do you do that? It's not just simply, bringing them back and having a good time with it. It's all the work that's going to have to go into doing it and trying to get them back.
Yeah.
So.
Is the state going to pay for some of that stuff, or is that going to come out of our budget that we're hoping pass? Come on, Rodney.
My favorite word is non-funded mandate, so we'll see.
Awesome.
That's another one of those unfunded mandates. Did they pay for our postage?
The screens have carbon and not plexiglass.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Any other administrators have any comments or want to make any comments? No? Okay. Move on to Ryan. As a superintendent's report, do you have anything additional?
Yeah, just a couple of quick reminders. One is the Terry Tree service. I put it in a Board of Education communication. I just want to take time to bring that up again, just to remind you that we're going to move forward on an abridged scope of work for that area to the west of the transportation garage. We had the Terry Tree service come back out and give us a modified scope of work that includes mowing the forest or the woods floor, removing some of the dangerous branches, and then trimming the trees up to make some of the branches not climbable for students. So that by It's still quite a bit of work to be done, but it'll leave the canopy. It'll preserve the barrier, the visual barrier from the neighborhood, which I understand was part of the challenge in the past a little bit. But we're going to move forward on that. I'm going to sign the contract and move forward. It is an amended price, which is lower, but it's still, I don't have the contract right in front of me, but it's still pretty substantial. The original scope of work was about $52,000. This scope of work, I think, is about $42,000. So it's still pretty substantial, but it will preserve the canopy, but at the same time, improve the safety of the wooded area.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one. I've got a couple of updates if you don't mind, Rodney.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
The next is we have a change order for the soil. If you remember at the last board meeting, you approved a change order up to not exceeding $147,000. At that time, there was a placeholder for the area west of the bus transportation storage area, what we're calling the bus corral, where the buses will really be parked on the west side, the elementary school side of that building. That came in. They need to do 9 inches of soil removal, and the estimate's between $31,000 and $34,000, which is good because it's below the placeholder that we were using. So your last approval covered that, and it came in a little bit less than what the placeholder amount was. So we're in good shape there. And then the last thing, Beth and I had a chance to chat briefly before the meeting in regards to my update around the staff developer, curriculum coordinator, integration specialist. It's my mistake. I thought that I had previously sent the supplemental job description for that position, and I had not. So when I send out Julie's notes, I'll include that supplemental job description also. The staff developer, curriculum coordinator is a job title that we already have. So we're appointing someone as an instructional support specialist, which is the current language for a teacher on special assignment. So that's going to be the official title, and then their specialty is going to be in the integration specialist. And we have a supplemental job description for that to outline the work, and I'll forward that to the board to keep you in the loop.
Okay, maybe if you want to just touch on this, I know in the governor's, when he extended the budget date, he also, what did he do, remove the need for APPR? We don't have to hold that this year whatsoever.
Yeah, basically it was tenure should be awarded on the merits of what was been able to be in place. We only had one person eligible this year, Mike Donellan, and we took care of that a few board meetings ago.
Right.
And then there's no requirement for a formal year-end evaluation for teachers and principals this year. That was part of the most recent executive order.
Okay, any questions for Ryan?
I do. Ryan, going back to the APPR, what happens, and I don't know if we have any staff that impacts, because they won't be giving, they could use their rating from last year. Is that no longer the case? So do we have anybody where they were brand new and wouldn't have had a APPR score from their previous school because they were hired brand new, that would impact their tenure track?
There's not clear accommodation for their tenure track right now, but they'll be judged for this year on the merits of what has been documented already.
So far, okay.
So that'll be a part of a process, but it won't get a summative evaluation this year.
Okay.
But fortunately, those in the first year will still have subsequent years. It'll be interesting to see how the state accommodates for next year, given the state test didn't occur this year. So how will be a growth score?
And my other one is just a clarification in that same personnel. I mean, amazing that we got 47 for Maura's position. So you had written, we're currently conducting needs assessment to help inform the hiring effort. I'm just not sure what that means.
Like what were the contributions that Maura was making that we'll need to also be considering? So Maura was a longtime track coach. Maura was our pool coordinator, for example. Gotcha. So that kind of, she was the department leader for the last several years also. So what are the types of skills and capacities that would help us to keep moving forward?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Ryan? No. Okay, thanks, Ryan. Roundtable. Beth.
I just was wondering if we were, as a board, if people were in favor of attending the parade on Thursday for the seniors. I brought tag board to make signs if you want some, or I just didn't know if we would, everybody was doing their own thing, or if we might come to, have a common meeting area. And even if we were socially distancing, I was just wondering if we were going, if people were going. I'm going.
Yeah, I don't know if we were doing something formal. As a board, I don't want to infringe on them. If they wanted us to do something as a group, we could, but I think we'd ask Ryan Wagner if he had any thoughts on that or something, or, we can collectively just be out there. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know if, we were talking earlier in terms of,
Yep.
being a team and
we were going to be
how-
on the bus, the board bus. Remember, we were going to get the big bus, be socially distanced to be the board bus.
So again, I was just wondering if, if people
No.
wanted to get in this general area, that's all.
Yeah, I was just going to be out and about, but I mean, if somebody wants to, if they
That's fine.
want to do something formally, we could, or if you want to get together as a group and be
I think it'd
someplace.
nice to be in representation.
If you want to get together as a group, we can ask Ryan Wagner, where's be a good spot. We could just
Sure.
be standing with the rest of the crowd, would just be together.
You got it. Yep.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
I am making signs, so
Okay.
I
He wants to
thought
give
we'd
us some guide and give us some guidance. Obviously, we don't want to infringe on whatever their plans are, but if you want us to be together, we can be together at some area or location, or we'll just find a spot to be together and
yeah,
scream.
there's
We can scream and I'll wave.
spots on, Clinton or right by the circle or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But other
Okay.
than that, no.
All right. Julie?
I'm good, thank you.
Jim?
I'm good also.
Bob?
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was teacher mentoring, because we're doing this computer business. I would like to have some thoughts maybe on how to deal with student learning with online training, which I've been always for computers, but we still need teachers to do their main thing. So I just want to throw that up in the air so that I just had something to say about it. So I got it out.
Bob, thanks for that. We are in the process right now of collecting information from the faculty and staff about what's worked, what we need to do differently. And we're going to also collect some information from the students in the community in an upcoming survey. And we're going to take all of that to try to see what improvements we need to make to our continuity of learning plans in order for next year. One of those things is that interpersonal contact I think that you're talking about, and being, whether it's be one-on-one or just having the opportunity to make sure that the progress is being tracked deliberately. If we had a little bit more time, and if we knew when we left on March 13th that we weren't going to be back, I'm not sure everything we're doing would be the exact same. I'm really proud of our efforts, trying to stay dialed into what's going on regionally and other schools that I'm aware of. I feel like we've done a very solid job in meeting needs. But, I think if we had a do-over, there are probably things that we'd want to shore up a little bit. That personal connection would be one, the monitoring, more specifically, the individual progress of each student might be another. The rhythm and pace of work might be a third. But we're trying to collect that information from those who are closest to it to see what plans we need to put in place to do some things differently. So I think that's kind of in the neighborhood of what you were talking about.
Yes. And also you're doing very well with it too. I want to thank everyone for doing the job that they're doing. It's just amazing the support we've gotten with all of this uncharted territory here. This is great. Thank you.
Thanks.
For I think most of you know, but on Thursday at 10 o'clock, there's called, I don't know, something at 8 for 8 ball. He's got an 8 ball hanging out there, but Ryan does a fantastic job of explaining different things. And actually, he mentioned, I think in his last broadcast, about going out to the public to see what worked, what didn't work, and so on. He's getting quite a following. Not many people are asking questions, but there's a lot of people watching, and our technical guy Jim there is keeping them straight, making sure that he gets the questions and so on. But if you haven't, take the opportunity at 10 o'clock, get on Facebook and catch the and they're all recorded. You can go back and look at them. But he does a good live presentation if they get the technology to work properly. So
Yeah,
I always like the jokes.
Oh, go ahead, Beth. I'm sorry.
No, I said I like the jokes at the end.
Yeah, I'd be lost without Jim Ellis, the man in my upper right hand corner. Whatever challenge is coming, he just meets it. So, and
don't just type something that you think that only somebody's seeing, because Jim Ellis will read it to Ryan across the air. And I think the first time or second time I typed something that he said, "Oh yeah, remind them about." I can't remember what it was, but so if you type in there that you're watching or something, and you have a question, it will be broadcasted. So just so you know,
we're very willing to call you out. I mean, make sure that you can become a part of the live stream as well.
Yeah. Okay. Our future meetings, 6/9. Well, I'm sorry, not 6/9. 6/16 now is the budget vote and election, and 6/22.
So that'll need to be a correction. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And guest recognition. I do not believe anybody has joined us. Jim? Nope. Okay.
No, there's no one.
So, okay. So we do need an executive session. So I'll entertain a motion first to go into it. So we're in live, and then we'll back out of here and then go up in the executive session. And then when we're done, we'll come back into here and finish up. Jim will keep us running. Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I'll make that.
Bev, I have a second.
A second.
Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. See you on the other side.
Good night, Rob and Jackie. Have a good
Good
evening.
night.